+10. We will take a look quickly at the game between Praggnanandhaa versus Magnus Carlsen. So Irina wants to analyze a little bit, and probably we also see the second game that is between Abasov versus Fabiano.
Yeah, well, we just saw a really exciting end to that game. Basically, a very tense game throughout that got decided, I think, basically due to Prag's time trouble.
Right.
And also Magnus's endgame skills and his ability to put his pieces on the right squares. Right. So, but let's see how things went downhill. I mean, you know, the thing about this game is that Magnus, once he saw that Prag was getting low on time, he just kept speeding up. Right. He kept putting the pressure on him, and he used that advantage rather unmercilessly.
Right. I mean, that's the thing when you're playing in the shorter time control, right? You're not only playing chess, but you're also playing against the time situation. And Magnus is a very experienced player in both rapid and blitz, and even in classical as well. Yeah. So okay, so let's see after this rook e6.
Okay, let's go here. Like the first quite nice move that Magnus threw in was this intermediate move, rook f6, that allowed him to improve his rook without actually having to protect his knight. So basically, white has a choice here. I think he chose to capture, but that actually improved the knight. So, I mean, you could go, I guess you could go knight f6 right away, but then you can see the difference that you have this rook, which is just kind of unnecessary and passive, still on the board. So rook f6 was a nice inclusion. Perhaps, you know, white needed to do something different here than trade. I don't know, maybe he should have avoided the rook trade, maybe gone here. But of course, you know, then the knight is able to come into c5, and it's still a game. Or maybe he needed to kind of come out with the king to protect the rook. It's also possible. But he traded. Okay, so that was accomplished by black. He got rid of the rook. Then white played b4. It seems quite reasonable. Not a forced move, but basically it didn't seem like a bad decision at all. And this was where I started to really kind of like what he was doing, because he started playing moves that were not that obvious to me. And also it was just the speed at which he was doing it, right? Just like king f8. Yeah, the king finds the square in the center to control the infiltration squares on the d file. Very helpful. As soon as you see that, you're like, oh, that's a classy move, yeah?
Yeah, but I think it's also because Magnus is playing with a concept. So as long as you get a concept, the moves will come very easily. But on the other hand, Praggnanandhaa didn't really have any plan to do here.
Well, I mean, maybe white should have gone in for this. I mean, is there a point maybe even trading these knights? Because at some point those knights started hopping around a lot. Like, I don't even know what exactly would Magnus do here. Like, what would his judgment tell him? Keep the rooks on the board, keep the rook, offer up the rook trade, right? Like, for me, I mean, I wouldn't be able to make this decision in a split second. Like, what do you think? What does your intuition tell you?
Probably just trade the rook, but yeah, it's hard to...
Trade the rook would probably be what I would be thinking, but then white is absolutely fine, right? Exactly, right? So I'm just saying, okay, these were some key moments in the game. I think Prag maybe should have tried something a little bit more forcing. He went king g2, this king arrived, this pawn move seemed fine because, okay, it's just a good square for the pawn. And then Magnus, like, instantly finds that open file. Okay, now it's like we're not getting the trades of pieces so easily, right? So the eval bar is keeping this balance, but now, like, exactly what is the plan for white? Not so clear, right? Because this pawn is weak. This rook is, like, coming in. These knights are coming in. And it starts to feel, at least on a practical level, actually quite unpleasant.
Yeah.
So within just a few moves. You know, like white not even really making a mistake. So he goes here. And then this starts to get like already really unpleasant as he realizes like there's a fort coming. So the knight improves. Now the rook came in. I mean, yeah, like it was just relentless.
Yeah, and all the moves are quite natural. And I think we can quickly wrap this up because the second game is about to start.
Oh, yeah. All right. Wow.
And yeah, 15 seconds left to the first move. And this could be it. If Praggnanandhaa cannot win the second game and force the match into another tiebreak, then this could be it. And also the same thing with the game between Fabiano versus
e4. He's going to play e4. Watch it. Yes. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I had to say that because the reason he's doing this is because he's going to play c3. That's it. I'm sorry. I had to bring this out there because I had some idea, which is that, you know, he was in the exact same situation against Gukesh.
Yeah, and he did the same thing too.
And he did the same thing, and I think overall that strategy worked just fine for him in that game, even though like it's sort of He later on kind of outplayed himself, but his opening strategy worked out great. So it makes sense that he just stuck with it.
Yep, I think it is a very wise opening choice as well, especially if you play e4. If you want to play for a win, I think Magnus already knows that Prag will go with the Sicilian, and then c3 is obviously a very safe choice against it.
Yes, and by the way, Gukesh against him, I think, played with d5, and Prag goes for knight f6, which he also did against Arjun. So Prag has, he's going to this opening for the second time in this tournament in a must-win situation. It worked against Arjun, but let's see how it works against Magnus. So bishop c4, knight b6, and bishop b3. Yes. Now, the d5, I remember, is the main line with e takes, queen takes, and I think castles, bishop e6, and all of that stuff. It's very dangerous to take this pawn. Right, because I guess white just has a ton of compensation for the pawn. They have better development, more space. So normally black is playing d5 here. I guess he can play d6. It could be the same thing.
Yeah, I think it will end up with ed and queen d, and then that's the main line. But I think maybe Praggnanandhaa is going to come up with something else because, he has a very wide repertoire. So maybe he'll try g6. Oh no, d6 he did.
d6, yeah.
And
this is
takes,
different. And
queen
there
d6.
is the move e6 here. I just want to point out that, queen d6 is sort of it's the main move, but I'm pretty sure this exists. Like these types of ideas where you try to take with the bishop and you go into the isolated pawn position. But he went for queen d6. And castles is on the board, and now generally we're seeing bishop e6 to neutralize this bishop.
Right. Wow, so let's see. We had two decisive results in the first game and two must-win situations. Nijat, Abasov, and Praggnanandhaa needs to win the second game.
And they both need to win with black.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a tall order.
Right.
All right, so Magnus has castled. And let's see what other moves than bishop e6 can Prag come up with here. It's played 84% of the time. But let's take a look at this opening. So we got Fabi as white going for the Rosalimo, and Nijat again playing e6. This time, Fabi, he hasn't played the Rosalimo against Nijat before.
In the first game, yeah.
It was like Carlsen. This was
Carlsen,
yeah.
yeah.
Against Carlsen and Vidit.
And Vidit.
All right, so he goes to this, and instead of white capturing here early and playing for these b3 systems, Fabiano just castles, knight e7, rook e1, a6, back, d5. It's funny because it looks a little bit like a c3 Sicilian, except there's no white pawn here, right? Knight f6 and bishop e3 is on the board. Okay, well, I mean, it's very solid for white, and he's encouraging a bunch of trades to happen on that square. Solid structure, small imbalance in the pawn structure with the pawn majorities being on different sides of the board, but basically, when you need to make a draw with white, this is certainly a good strategy.
Right, so, yeah, I think it's... both players, Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano, they're just two experienced players, and they know exactly what type of situation they're in, whether they have to play for a draw or they have to win. And their opening choices show it a lot.
Right, so Nijat lashes out with knight f6, knight g4, but probably this bishop is just going to move away. And this is definitely a risky move for black, right? Moving the same knight in the opening twice.
Yeah, so it just wants to take the bishop, and what does it do again? What if you play d5, for example? Can it be moved?
D5 is interesting. But d5, you know what the problem is? It might be that I'm taking.
And rook takes.
But then you take with the rook, and then my knight has to move somewhere.
if knight e7 or b4, I can play knight c3.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting, d5, yeah?
But Fabi didn't play
Yeah,
it.
he didn't play it. He moved his
Yeah.
bishop away. But definitely an interesting move. All right, he just went bishop g5. I think bishop e7 was played.
f6.
F6 was played. Okay. And where's this bishop going to go? Ah, it's not going to go anywhere. d5.
Bishop f4.
Oh, bishop f4. d5 was actually a powerful option as well. Now, the point here is that, well, if you take with the knight, then you lose that knight in the end.
And if you take with the pawn, I think just...
You can take with the pawn. It's actually a little strange that Fabi, but then h3, right? Maybe he's trying to play against this knight.
Or you still can take on d4 and then take on... But it's a bit risky because there's e5 too.
Yeah, you mean like there, but yeah, then the queen would take, and then there's that, yeah. So I think he's going to go h3 here. Meanwhile, should we take a little look at Magnus's board? Okay. We've had some events here, and the first big one was that Prag did not go for the main line with bishop e6. He went for bishop f5. I mean, we're kind of waiting to see where he would deviate because he needs to, right? Try to get off the beaten track and get a game out of this. And after bishop takes, knight takes d4. So we're going for an isolated pawn position, but we traded off a pair of knights. Pawn takes, and e6 on the board. So this is not the first time in this tournament Magnus has had an isolated pawn position. He also had one against Gukesh, where at some point it sort of started working against him. So e6 and knight c3, bishop e7.
And now, yeah, Magnus is still thinking. And he's
Queen
ahead
f3.
in clock. So
Yes.
queen f3, and then pretty much I think just develop the bishop on c1.
Yeah. This has been played in some games of good players, this whole position. Pierre Rune Robson, there's an older game, Lothier versus Polgar in 1993, Rosenthal is Bolagon, so this is not like some new position. And queen f3 is the most popular move, like by far. So what do black players usually do here? They either castle or they try to defend this pawn. So if they castle,
Do you take the pawn?
could take the pawn, or we just play d5, which is actually what he's going to do. I actually have no doubt that Magnus is going to play that move.
d5, yeah?
Yeah, why wouldn't you? In a situation where you need a draw, you can play that and then just trade off everything, and it's going to be a draw. So actually, this is super solid. By the way, I have to say this is an example of, again, smart preparation, right? Like, because he can start with any first move, right? He starts with e4 because it's like the most forcing castles is on the board. So is my prediction right? Is he going to play this move? We'll
I think
see.
so too, yeah. Yeah, d5 will just offer many trades there.
Yeah.
A lot of pieces going to be traded. And he did, yes.
Yeah, it's too, like, even if this move was better, objectively, you still wouldn't
You
play
still
it.
play d5,
You would
yeah.
still play d5, yeah. So yeah, so what I was saying about like smart preparation in terms of like choosing the right first move, you know, he narrows his opponent's options. He kind of pushes him into the Sicilian,
Yep.
right? Because you can sort of predict he'll go for it again. And then he has this c3 Sicilian weapon, which is also kind of narrowing the options. And he goes for these kinds of positions which are very solid, right? So really like not giving his opponent a chance.
To mud the water.
Yeah, exactly. Good expression, to muddy the water. Yeah, it's quite smart.
Yep, but also it's an advantage of being a very universal player.
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
I mean, I'd like to have such a smart preparation as well.
Yeah. But you have to know how to
But
play
I have to
all
know,
these types
yeah.
of positions, know all the
Exactly.
theory. Yeah, of course. It's not
Exactly.
easy. It's
It's
like
not.
it's like you're able to be smart because of your amount of chess knowledge.
Yes.
Yes, you're able to move around when you need to. Yeah.
So d5 is on the board, and it's posing some problem for Praggnanandhaa because, well, if he's not in a mastering situation, the position is totally fine.
Yeah.
But he needs to avoid some trades. But if he's avoiding it, white will just stand better.
Yeah, I mean, right now we have moves like queen d7 is the most popular, bishop f6. But the thing is, like, we're just going to be taking here, right?
Yep.
I mean, Okay, you can throw in some other moves, maybe rook d1, bishop f4. Bishop f4 could be an idea, but then there's maybe like e5.
Oh, and I think you can just pull back, yeah?
Pull back.
And then rook e1.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
fine.
If you're trying to
Yeah.
avoid it, it's...
So this game is likely to be less exciting than the first one.
Well, yeah, you're right. But I think Praggnanandhaa will try to force the matters. So we will see. He's known for being a very creative player.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he will come up with something up on his sleeve. And yeah, he's thinking right now. So we might expect, you know, like some sacrifice or something like that on the board.
Like sacrificing this bishop. Yeah, let's sacrifice it. Yeah, no, I mean, okay, it's hard. He's got his work cut out for him in terms of trying to keep this complicated. Because again, you know, it's like White can probably try to play this position for an advantage, but you know, certainly like just to make a draw like shouldn't be that hard. I mean, like we saw that when he needs to, like yesterday when he wanted to, he played for a draw quite easily as White and kind of took on a very, you know, uninspiring endgame and still made that draw, right, without any problems. So, yeah, we'll see what Prag is going to come up with now, but certainly the way Magnus has steered this game is unpleasant.
Right.
It's very unpleasant to be in this position when you're like in a must-win situation.
Yep. Also, in a must-win situation is Abasov, which is currently worse against Fabiano.
Okay, so he did attack the knight that had wandered in to g4. He sent the knight to h6. Then he captured it, so black's pawn structure is a bit messy. And then he went knight d2. So his plan is simple. He wants to go knight b3 and take the pawn.
Yeah, and using the fact that the king is still in the center is going to be very weak, yeah? Yeah, I like this idea. You just knight b3 and you just develop this bishop somehow using the diagonal. It would be a dream if you can put the bishop or the queen on h5.
Yeah, that's definitely the big square. So he has to go bishop. Did he go bishop c5? No, he didn't. He went for something else. I was thinking he'd go for bishop c5 to protect the pawn. He went for b5? Okay. Oh, I guess I don't even understand that move that well. I mean, I guess he has hopes of putting the bishop there, but first he needs to make sure he doesn't hang the pawn. So a4 was just instant by Fabi.
Very thematic.
Yeah. Interesting how that was instant to him. Like, for me, it would not be so obvious. Like, I would think, like, why not knight b3? You know? So, like, this is where I would spend my time, right? For him, it's just like a second. It would be interesting to ask him, like, how do you know, like, within a second that this is a better move than knight b3?
I think you still preserve the idea of knight b3, while at the same time you have this free file for the rook and could be useful around the 7th rank ladder.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so after a4,
Rook b8
was played. No, of course, now it's nice because he also, this is a weak pawn now as well. So now just knight b3. Wow. So poor Nijat, like in a lost position, in a must-win situation.
Yeah, but I like what he's doing. He's trying to, keep the pair of bishops. It's a quite imbalanced. Look at the pawn structure. It's very unusual.
Yeah.
So something like this, if your opponent is unfamiliar, it could confuse him.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like, you're right. Like if you can hide the king here, get the bishop on the long diagonal, get the rook to the open file. I mean, there are scenarios where...
There are scenarios,
Yeah, there are scenarios. Like, I mean, White has to be a little bit careless to let all of that happen, but I mean, of course, there is some potential for Black's pieces, so...
So the position is better for Fabi, but it's still quite wild. So let's see if there's any development in the Magnus's game.
There is. All right. So what did Prag come up with? He went bishop g6, which I think is not actually even a very popular move in this position. Like, it's barely been played. Let's see if there's been any top players going for this. I see just one game. I think Raja Harshit did this in 2017. All right, so he played bishop g6. A bit surprising.
Yeah, I think Praggnanandhaa just wants to keep all the pieces on the board.
Well, yeah, but like, look what happens now. Now he gets a weak, isolated pawn. Man, Magnus is just steering this game like exactly in the direction he wants. So he goes queen e2, pawn's under attack.
King h8, queen takes.
King h8, he gave up the pawn. Then there was a queen trade and bishop c5. And wow, yeah, no, this is going to be just, I mean, he's not even letting him get into the game. I mean, he's like, okay.
I give you my pawn back.
Yeah, I give you the pawn back. Like, he's not even interested, like, I mean, in trying to keep this extra pawn. He's like, I mean, obviously there are tactics. So Prague does have compensation, but just bishop e3, and it's like, you got to trade pieces. They made a trade.
Or maybe it cannot be taken back, you know, because after takes, how are you going to take this pawn back?
How are you even getting this pawn back?
Because there's
Maybe
bishop
rook
f7.
f8.
Bishop f7 is always there. But you...
Yep, I go with this rook. Don't I get it back? Or do you get your rook to the 7th?
Oh, you mean you want to take my bishop first or not?
Oh, yeah, I'm taking the bishop and going right here.
Okay, but then rook b7, right?
Like this?
Yeah, just bishop f7.
Well, you know, I have knight c4, so I take.
Okay, then it's a good thing. Like
I mean, sure, white is not having any trouble here. White is the first one on the 7th rank, but, you know, I don't know. Yeah, white's better. If you move there, then I just take your pawn, right? So black has to defend the pawn, and then I guess try to play knight c4.
And I'll play rook d1 and get the 7th rank.
Yeah.
Yeah, so white is just definitely better here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a tall order. But again, you know, I really think that, like, you know, making these correct choices, knowing what kind of, being able to go for these positions that are just unpleasant for the opponent, that's definitely a skill in itself. Right? Like, it might not look very exciting to us, right? Like, and Carlsen's obviously not trying to make this game exciting. He doesn't need any excitement in this game. But just imagine, like, remember what we talked about when you're in a situation where you need a draw, you want to kind of make your opponent forget that they're trying to play for a win. That's the situation that Prague is in now. Like, you can see it, like, you know it. It's just completely obvious that even Prague is looking at this and is like, yeah, I can't really win this.
You can see it from his body language, yeah?
Yeah, what did he do in terms, he went for rook e8, right?
So,
and you know what's Magnus? Magnus just went back with the bishop to b3. He didn't even try bishop f7, which is a little surprising. Okay, but his move is fine because he just controls the knight, right? He's just trading and trading everything, and yeah. You know, making a chess game not be exciting when you don't need it to be exciting is still a skill. Yes.
Yep. And Magnus is doing it. I mean, so far he's been like the director of their match, because on the first and second game of their classical matches, Magnus didn't into it at all, right? And then he just felt like, okay, I just want to make a quick draw, and quick draws they were. Yes. And now he's finally had his time to make extra rest. Yep. And now he's coming back on the tiebreak, and yeah, just like totally a director. Like he.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, for sure. I mean, he has set the tone for their match. You know, Prague had his chance to play that first game where he was white. I mean, he played, he did what he could. Magnus had to defend a bit. He did that, you know, and then, well, you know, again, when Prague is white, I mean, he's trying to play. He had his chances today, too. He certainly did his best to create a game in that first rapid game.
Yep.
But Magnus just, like, you know, managed to neutralize it, you know, and using his experience, his defensive skills, everything, and then kind of being relentless in that end game that he's known for.
Oh, wow. And he took the draw. And congratulations to Magnus Carlsen, our FIDE World Cup's winner.
Wow, yeah, this is such a good match. You have to say, he just got the job done, but he also produced a show for the chess world in that first game.
Right, yeah. Well, on the first game, yeah, Praggnanandhaa had all the chances, indeed, but Magnus Carlsen, with his experiences, just taking down the match like this, yeah. Well, I think it was also a very good moment for Praggnanandhaa, because, man, to be the youngest finalist in the World Cup ever.
Yeah, I mean, this match doesn't take anything away from his incredible achievement in this tournament.
It's only adding up.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel like he's got to look at this experience as actually a very good learning experience, because Magnus already showed a few good lessons. You know, first of all, the importance of the time management. Magnus has spoken about that before, right? He's spoken about how he likes to punish people who don't manage their time well.
Right.
And sometimes Prague has been getting kind of low on time in these tournaments, and he's survived against other people. But, you know, Magnus showed him that it wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But no, this World Cup has shown like a lot of incredible fights, yeah, among the youngsters, and Praggnanandhaa is just the symbol of everything because I like his fighting spirit, I
Yes.
like his demeanor, I like everything what he did. Like,
Yeah.
also the fact that he's bringing his mom here as a like a moral support. You
Yeah.
know, like man, he's just going to have like a very bright future.
Yeah,
And,
no, I absolutely. Actually, I don't feel like he did a lot wrong in this
No,
match.
no.
That's the thing. It wasn't like he lacked fighting spirit
No.
or character or motivation or anything. Sometimes, I mean, like I said, it's a question, right? If you know that your opponent is like sick, should you just try harder to be, to create a game at the board? I mean, I know it's not the thing to do with top level chess, go all out with the black pieces, right? It's not really, but like in a way you have to use all the advantages you have. So if you have that kind of merciless spirit, perhaps he should have like tried more with black and actually not went for the for e5 and the 4 knights. But again, you actually have to know that Carlsen is planning to make a draw. You have to know that, whether he's feeling okay or not, right? So
Yep.
those are not obvious things at all, right? I'm just trying to see where were the mistakes in the match, right? Or where he could have done a little bit better. I mean, today's game, all I can say is really like time management. Other than that, I think on the board he did what he could.
Yeah. The last mistake that Praggnanandhaa did, especially on the first rapid game, it was just because of his time situation. If he has enough time on the clock, I'm sure he would be able to hold the draw comfortably. But yes, this is the thing with the rapid tiebreak, right? Shorter time control, and you got to play faster. You have to manage your time even better. And Magnus is just so experienced.
He's so experienced. And I mean, okay, he comes out with a Sicilian, right? I mean, again, it's like maybe it's not the best choice given that Magnus has already shown what he's going to do against the Sicilian in that situation. Magnus has given away that piece of information by playing c3 against Gukesh. But again, it's like, maybe Prag hasn't prepared for this scenario where he loses with white. Or maybe he doesn't, know what else he can do in this situation where he needs to win with black against someone like Magnus, right? So it's like also, an experience thing that it just takes time to acquire, right? It's not like Magnus became like this overnight, right?
Yep.
He's
Yep.
been the world's #1 for like the last 14 years or so.
Yep. But anyway, congratulations to both players for showing us a very good chess, very good match, and very instructive ones as well. And let's quickly see this one. This is a must-win situation for Nijat Abasov, which is currently in the losing position.
I was hoping it's a must-win situation for Fabiano Caruana because he has good chances to get that win. But unfortunately, this is not the situation. It's the other way around, where black needs to win, but okay, he's about to lose the extra piece that he has, right? And by the way, I think this king is feeling a bit cold.
Yeah, totally.
Left out. In the rain. I don't know how else to describe the situation. I mean, he needs to he's actually just getting destroyed, isn't he? Like everything is coming
in the center.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe he needs to wrap up this game quickly, so prepare for our next interviews.
Well, I think he will do everything he might, but yeah, this position looks very hopeless. We can see from the e-file bar, it's just going to the roof. And okay, now Fabi has, it's not a piece up, but still a very much dominant position.
Yeah, so okay, Nijat trying to keep the D file closed makes a lot of sense. I think we forgot to even mention there's a hanging pawn here. It's even worse than I thought.
Yep.
Because there's that.
And again, a potential of rook a7.
Yeah.
Or you can even throw in knight c5 too if you want.
Yeah, this is really the ugliest position I've seen this whole tournament. I don't know. Do you want to disagree with that, Irene?
I'm trying to recall my memory about all the games here.
Yeah, but this is certainly one of the worst ones, right? I mean, you don't see this every day.
So rook a7, rook b7.
Yeah.
Takes.
And I think he's going to go for d5 or something. Maybe he'll close up that bishop. No, he went for knight c5.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, if you take it, the queen holds the rook, so he's threatening the bishop and the fork. So bishop d5, I guess, is going to be on the board. Or, I don't know. I would try bishop d5. Yeah. And maybe now it's time to take the pawn. And also there's another little guy here that we can take at some point. And then if I think we take there, we threaten knight d7. So now but then if you take here, maybe there's like king g7. Still, look at this fork concept.
Ooh, that's so nice. Yeah.
That is really nice. And that's actually really nice because you can fork the king whether he's on g7 or f8. And then this bishop has a big problem. Yeah, I think he's actually going for this idea.
Yeah, in this position, I think Fabi is spoiled with so many options. You can even bring the rook to a1 and then back to a7 again. Yeah, you can do many things. Or even, you can even try to promote the b pawn if you want to.
Yeah. So, well, Abasov, I guess, in this match has not been able to do so much against the experienced Caruana. And Fabi, despite being very tired, something that he's mentioned a lot, is still able to play really, really convincing chess.
Yeah, but Nijat's run is also already so amazing. And if nothing changes, he will play the candidates next year. I think it should be the lowest rated candidate ever. Do you think?
Yeah, probably. I agree. I mean, unless he gets his rating up, right?
Oh, until the Toronto,
Yeah,
yes.
so I guess like knight here, where's the king going to go? I mean, where can it go? Maybe king g7. Then we have a check, but I guess you run. So what other moves do we have? Oh, we actually have check and fork. Check and fork is maybe the most convincing.
Oh, yeah, and then
That
you
wins
just win a piece. Yeah,
that wins a piece.
yeah.
So the thing is here, it's like you're focused on the king. We're like looking at this, and I was trying to understand how we're like supposed to mate this king, but doesn't seem to be a direct checkmate. But there is this painful fork.
Exactly. I think just knight b6 and resign.
Okay.
And yeah, I think he's going to go for it. I think we're going to see the end of the game.
Yeah, and Fabi is going to get 100% get his candidate spot. Third place, still a very good tournament. Oh, wait. Oh, the bishop is not on.
Oh, the bishop is on d6.
Yeah, somehow we
So
thought the bishop was on e7.
We can update it.
Yeah, let's update it. So it's. I don't think it changes much.
No,
though,
it
does
doesn't.
I mean,
Knight
you can
b6
still
still.
go here.
And then it's a check, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's bishop here. That's a little difference.
Okay, Fabi took
that's
on
why
h6.
he took. Yeah.
Queen g7 is a threat. Queen f6 is a threat. And you cannot really move the rook because h7 is hanging. So
Yeah, this is the big one. This is also a big one. Well, how do you guard all those squares? Bishop c6?
first of all, Queen
Yeah,
g7,
just here,
and that's
I mean,
it.
Okay, that's all.
Wow. Congratulations to
Powerful game by
Fabiano
Fabi.
Caruana
Yeah.
for securing the third spot in the FIDE's World Cup and also securing the candidate spot.
So what do you think, Irene, about what we saw today? Are you pleased with like the chess content that we got to see, or were you hoping for more? Because it was over in two rapid games.
I think this is the earliest tiebreak day
Yes.
I've ever had here in the World Cup. So, well, I definitely root for more games. So I was actually hoping for those who needed to make a comeback.
Yeah.
Did the comeback, but unfortunately they couldn't manage. But I think it's also because this is the end of the event, and all the players are starting to be very, very tired. We could see how Fabiano performed on the first classical match. It was a very poor performance by him, right?
Yeah.
But then he managed to win the second game.
He won 3 games in a row after that.
3 games in a row.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like an awakening result
Yeah.
for him against Nijat,
Yeah.
that he couldn't, spoil the match even further. But, I mean, a lot of histories are written out of this event.
That's true.
In the women's section as well, and in the
Yeah.
open section.
Well, it's going to be a very memorable
World
event.
Cup, yeah.
World Cup, yeah, like Magnus Carlsen winning his first World Cup ever. came to him later than the World Championship title, believe it or not, right? And he has made numerous attempts, and some of them he's had to leave this tournament quite early. So it's not an easy event to win. And based on that, we kind of know that the World Cup is always, it's kind of random in terms of who actually winds up winning from the top players. But in this case, the world number one won the event. I think he showed us some really good chess moments. Of course, I'm sure there are games that he said, he would not mind throwing away. Right. But ultimately, I'm pretty happy with the chess that we saw today. Like, as a fan, watching that first game, that had so many stages. Like, I feel like, he got to showcase a lot of things that he can do in chess in that game.
Yeah, I think from today's matches, we could tell that Magnus is number one for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was such a masterpiece. Again, he kind of like grinded something out of nothing. It's like, but okay, using the fact that Praggnanandhaa was in a time situation, like some time trouble, and he cleverly used that fact. So
he pounced on it when he got his chance. And the thing is, the transition was so smooth, right? Like, between the longer part of that game, right, where like it felt like it was like a slow game, and then when it got down to like under 4 minutes, or even like once he felt that Prague was in the time trouble, he just speeded up so much, even though he had time, right? He could have been thinking, but he started playing like it's a blitz game, and the pressure was just not ending, and eventually it kind of broke down Prague's resistance.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that was, all in all, I mean, that game, I think, is like worth rewatching, guys, or watching if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. And what do you think? What is your conclusion also for the Women's World Cup?
Women's World Cup. Yeah, I watched the interview with Alexandra Grechkina.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
She said that her final match, it was kind of a nervous affair. She felt the nerves were definitely in play because she'd been in the finals of the World Cup before and wasn't able to win.
Right.
Up until that point, it had been quite smooth for her. So I think, she didn't show too much excitement over the win. Maybe that's just her more calm personality. But it was, I think, the strongest player won, right? I mean, other than Ju Wen-jun, right, who was the other top seed. But she was coming off a very tough World Championship match. So her, exiting the tournament earlier was not a surprise at all. It was maybe more of a surprise that she even decided to come here. And apart from that, Grechkina was, one of the top seeds. She's probably the most stable of the top seeds these days.
Right.
The most stable, the youngest. So her win in this tournament, you can't really call a surprise. I feel like both of our winners, Magnus and Alexandra, are, they're not surprises for sure. Yeah,
they were not surprises, but some of the matches, they also need some luck, to win some matches, because again, in hindsight, it could be Salimova who might win the
She had her chances. She had numerous chances in her match with Alexandra.
Exactly.
She could have ended it in the classical. She could have probably gotten close to ending it if she would have won the first rapid game. And of course, Magnus had one foot out the door in his match with Vincent Keimer. For me, that's maybe the most memorable thing about the World Cup, actually. It was that situation.
Yeah, and I think in general, my memory about this World Cup is about how the youngsters, they are taking over the older generation.
Yes.
It's exciting to see how this generation, Praggnanandhaa, Gukash, Arjun, Vincent Keimer, taking over the older generation. Hikaru Nakamura and even Fabio Caruana, who we are going to have soon in the studio, was also took down by Praggnanandhaa. So so it's
amazing. It's a wonderful, wonderful step, I think, in Prague's career. Beating Hikaru, beating Fabiano, I think is going to give him a lot of confidence. I feel like he's got great chess qualities. And actually, we have Fabiano Caruana in the studio.
Yes, so...
Azərbaycanın təbiətindən, Naxçıvanın torpağından süzülərək gələn təbii suyun sirri, Sirab.
Her damlasında